Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about constructions of RPD. We're going to go step by step from beginning when patient sits in your office till they leave with one, but not in so much detail, just enough to give you the whole idea and to understand it better. First step is check for any caries, any bad old fillings, overhangs, endo, if the mouth is unstable and they need to go through perio treatments. The mouth should be in so-called homeostasis, okay? And then we're going to move to the second step. So using a tray which is suitable for your patient's mouth. There's two ways. Either you can measure the patient's mouth using a caliper, as you can see in the picture over here, or you can visually choose appropriate size. Make sure the teeth fit inside the tray without the teeth touching the sides of the tray, as if you're going to visually choose appropriate size. But if you're using a caliper, tray must be at least 0.5 millimeter longer than measured distance. You can also use stoppers, which you can use C-silicone. This is to ensure an equal thickness of the impression materials. The third step, we're going to go and send it to the lab. So we took the impression using alginate material. And with that material, we make the impression, and then the impression goes to the lab. They send it to the lab, and in the lab, they use that impression that we did to make a stone model. It is produced by putting the primary impression with a plaster, okay? With plaster material, okay? Remember this, that this stone, okay, this stone is a positive reproduction. It is a positive reproduction of oral tissue. While the impression that we took here, this impression, this is a negative impression or reproduction of the oral cavity. Okay, the lab will usually send you the stone model and this. What is this? This is a costume tray or a functional, which we use it to make functional impression. There's different materials, but I'm just going to name two. Either self-curing acrylic resin or light curing acrylic resin, the same. The only difference is that this one, it just, cures by itself, and this one we need to put them in something called the light box using that, okay? They adapted to the stone model, this resin. And then we go to the fourth step, which is design of RPD. So from the lab, they sent us this model, this stone model. They sent us the stone model, and we get this. Okay, so we design it. I'm not going to talk about how the designing works in this video, maybe in the future videos, but here just know that, the dentist draws and basically is showing the dental technician how they want it to be, where they want the rests to be, where they want the major and the minor connectors to be, okay? So they design it. And then they send that to the lab. That is our next step. So they prepare the teeth. They prepare the teeth, so it has to be, let me write these notes down here. So first of all, they can use a round burr, okay? And usually, how does this preparation look like, basically? So let me write it like this. How does it look like? So usually it is triangular, okay? It is usually 1/3 of bucolingual. And take into account, this is important, that it is smaller then it's better if it's smaller or less than 90 degrees. You know why? Why is that? Why? Why does it has to be less than 90 degrees? It is because of the retention and also because of the forces. So if they ask you in the exam, these are the reasons. Because this inclination, okay, so forces are inserted axially as possible. There is no basically what's called torque forces. Okay, now that's that. And then it is also important, which is the last thing, the depth. So how deep should this preparation be? It has to stay in enamel. You know why? Because if we intrude enamel and go to dentin, dentin is very sensitive. So the patient might feel, pain every time they're going to put it on, or if they don't have it, and then the food cold. So it's best to stay in enamel. Remember that. Okay? Now we're going to move to the next step, which is the functional impression. Okay? In this step, we have to, okay, so we already talked about it. We said that this is a light cured acrylic, okay? It's also called as an individual tray. So this is an individual tray, okay? Individual tray, okay? Also in this, we can use that stoppers that we talked about, okay? I can write it down. So use 3-point of stoppers, or usually sometimes already the dental technician made it, okay? And then we have to, before anything else, we measure the borders with thermoplastic material. If you've never seen these are like they come in different colors. Like there's the pink one, orange one. They're like these like sticks basically that they melted using on the Bunsen burner, and then they melt, and then you just put it around these borders. So in here, and then you ask the patients to do the movements, different movements, depending on which border line you're doing. For example, in the A line, which is back here for the maxilla, you have to ask the patient to say ah, and then press on it. And then here, there's the passive movements and the movements that the patient has to do. I'm not going to go in details, but yeah. And then after you do that, the last step for this part is you apply adhesive. So you apply adhesive to your tray. So this adhesive is on the tray. Why do we add adhesive? Because we want it to stick to the material, because they don't have any chemical bond between the material that we're going to put on this for the impression and the tray. So we put adhesive so the material sticks to it, basically, And yeah, after we put the adhesive, then we put our material. We add the material. What material? Different dentists have different preferences, but usually what's commonly used is either polyether or a silicone. Okay? But yeah, so we talked about that, and after we put this material, we added the material, we put it back into the patient's mouth, and again, we ask the patient to do all those movements that we did for the borders. We ask them to repeat that over and over, like 2 to 3 times, even more, to do all this. Okay, all together, not like now with the borders that every time like step by step we ask them to do, but this time all together. They keep doing it, because we want to record it into the impression. And when we want to take it out, there's different ways. Either you can use the air spray, if it gets stuck, usually as students, everybody is scared. But yeah, just air it, or you can put your finger behind a tray and pull it at the same time. But usually the main thing when you want to take it out and it's not coming out, it's best to eliminate the outer suction. It's because of the suction. And yeah, and then we move to, and then we actually send it to the lab. So what we have here that we send it to the lab, we sent the this functional impression. We sent them so this is our package, let's say. This is the package that we're sending to the lab, which consists of our design, this design that we had here, design of our RPD, and plus this impression, functional impression, our functional impression. So there you go. So woof, we send it to the lab, and there's a lot of details in the lab that happens at this stage. But so what they do is that they duplicate the model. They duplicate it, which is also called the refractory model. I'm gonna write it down here, which is also called a refractory model. So basically, it's they use an investment material because it can withstand the heat. And that's the whole point. So they make something exactly that looks like this, like how we had here, but it's a different material. Here we used a plaster material, but this cannot withstand, this one cannot withstand the heat. So yeah, they make a duplicate model, also known as a refractory model, using investment material, and then they do the wax up. Wax up, and then what is wax up? It's basically something that looks like this. So based on the design that we gave them here, based on this design, they make, using wax material, they do like this is where the connectors, like the major connector is going to be, where the rest is going to be, and this is gonna basically become to this. You see, they made exactly like this. This is just like, like a guideline. After the wax up, they do the spruing, burnout, and casting, which is basically like they do burnout, the melting this wax, and casting is making the metal framework. Next step is, so we get a framework. Right now we get a framework. We use this framework. So the lab sends us this. So the lab sends us a framework. Okay. And then the next step is checking the vertical and the horizontal relationships. Okay. And then the next step is easy. Then it's the teeth setup. First, usually it's the anterior teeth, but usually in RPD they just come both at once. But before this, remember that we choose a color. We choose a color and the shape of the teeth, and then we send it to the lab, and then they do the teeth setup, but it's still like in wax. It's not the permanent one. And then and again, we check the whole vertical and horizontal relationship, and if everything is all right, it's the final try-in and delivery. And yeah, there you go. You got your RPD. Let me know in the comments what you think. I hope it was useful, and I wish everybody a good day.